Today we're going to talk about what the hell happened to the American pickup truck. This is my 1982 Ford F100 long bed pickup truck. I've had this truck probably 6 or 7 years now, 6 years. I bought it in 2020, right after COVID happened, and I was like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I need a pickup truck. And when I thought of a pickup truck, I thought back to the one that my dad had when I was a kid. It was my grandfather's truck. We called it Old Nay. It was kind of a similar color. It was a lighter tan color. But he had that truck for 20 or 30 years between the time he had it and the time we got rid of it. And it was a great truck, just an old Chevy C10. It had the 4.3, it was a 1987, last year. Long story short, that's a pickup truck. I don't want anything to do with these new trucks, and we'll go over why in a minute. But to start, let's go over this truck and what I like about it. This is what the inside of an engine bay should look like on a work truck. What are trucks for? Work. They're for going into the wilderness. They're for going down logging roads. They're for going onto muddy job sites. These things are for getting work done. And when something breaks, I don't have time for plastic covers to take them off. The absurd amount of vacuum lines, the absurd amount of electronic sensors, everything that has to be done just to do basic diagnosis on a modern vehicle. This is super simple. It's all right in front of your face. Your coil is right here, distributor right here, points and condenser inside the distributor. So if you have ignition problems and you verify you have voltage here, it can only be one of three things when you have an ignition issue on one of these vehicles. It can be your coil, your points, or your condenser. Very rarely is it going to be anything else. Cap and rotor buttons sometimes wear out, but that's very rare. In most cases, when you have ignition issues, especially with the modern replacement parts we have, that's where it's going to be. It's not going to be buried under plastic covers. It's not going to be behind some kind of security protocol that Dodge decided you needed to read your codes. We have a simple carburetor here. This is a Ford Motorcraft 2100. Even in the classic car world, something that irritates me is everyone loves to tell you, oh, put an Edelbrock on it, put a Holly on it. And those are great carbs. I just put an AVS2 Edelbrock on a friend's 302, and that thing works and runs great. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with sticking with an original Motorcraft 2100. The replacement parts, the gasket kits, all of that are readily available for these and easily found. It's easy to keep this thing going with this. I struggled to keep the Carter going, the original Carter that was on it. So I swapped that over to a Motorcraft. I actually built this engine in the garage myself. I made this custom rail here. I just added the fuel pressure gauge here and a mounting rail for it. And I'll take the camera in and do a little quick close-up tour. But I made this truck myself, or redid it myself, specifically with the idea that I want it to last and I want it to work, and I don't want it to ever be giving me trouble while I'm working. So I made it as simple as possible to work on it and to keep it going and give it as very few failure points as possible. One example of this is on Ford 300s, the intake and the exhaust are on the same side of the engine, which means your carburetor is going to sit directly over the exhaust. So if you have any fuel leaks, it's obviously a major fire hazard. So with that being the case, I made sure I only have one leak point right here. It can only leak at this fitting, and it is hard line all the way back to the other side of the cool side of the engine, where if I do have a fuel leak, there is a much less catastrophic risk of fire happening. But All that said, I didn't have to do a whole lot to make this a great platform. Trucks used to be a great platform. Trucks used to be designed in such a way that you could take the truck and modify it. You could change it, and I'll take you inside the truck and I'll show you a few examples of why it's so easy to make this truck modern, to make this truck competent, or to give it extra features that other trucks, modern trucks have, or that even people still add to their modern trucks, like auxiliary lights and other things. So the whole idea was that you bought a truck and then you made it yours, and that's gone. No one is trying to make a truck theirs anymore. Sure, they'll put rims on it and let their girlfriend write her name on the dash in Sharpie. Yeah, sure, that's personalizing your truck, I guess, but that is not the same as what we're talking about here. I have a custom sound system installed on here. I'm getting ready to add auxiliary lighting. I've actually added a whole new fuse panel in here for the auxiliary electric fans, and a few other things I'm planning on adding. But it is super easy to do. That is the point. They ran the same platform from 1980 to 1996. The same inner fenders. You open the hood, everything is the same, besides in 1987, of course, they switched to fuel injection. First generation Ford fuel injection is not exactly great, but it's also not that bad. And when you compare it with modern things, I'll take that any day over dealing with a modern car. It's still simple, it's still easy, and parts are readily available for it. So I think that's a great platform. And in the last video I made, I think a lot of people thought I was anti-EFI. I'm not anti-EFI. I like carburetors. That's just what I like to work with, because I know how to rebuild them easily and tune them and set them up. And I can get the most out of a carburetor, whereas I honestly don't know how to use a laptop to tune a vehicle, and none of my vehicles would have that capability without spending a ton of money. So that said, I just stick with carburetors because it's what I know. But I love EFI. EFI can be a great thing, and there's nothing wrong with OBD1 and early OBD2 cars and trucks. Anyway, that aside, I'm gonna take you inside the truck and I'll show you some of the projects I'm working on with it and why I think it's so great and why these are such a great platform to customize and make your own. First off, I mentioned the truck being simple. I can carry this combo 9/16 and 1/2 inch wrench, this combination screwdriver, a hammer, and my favorite Nipex knockoffs, and I can just about take this entire truck apart. If I'm stuck on the side of the road, I can fix any problem the truck has using those 4 tools. Now, I do have a full suite of tools in the back for, extracurricular activities. But the point is, with 4 hand tools that I can carry right here on the bench seat, I can get off the side of the road in almost any situation. So let's come in here and look closer. If you look at the radio bezel on these, they're very simple and they are very flat. It makes them very easy to modify and to alter. You could easily cut this section out and fit an Apple CarPlay radio in there, or whatever you want to do. Doubled in, singled in. I did a singled in radio, and I made a little block off plate for that top area where the original radio would have shown through. And they also give you these blocked off little rectangular areas that are perfect for adding your own switches or doing whatever you want to do with it. There's all kind of creative things you can do, and with the way that this dash is designed, it makes it very easy. As you can see, I've added some dash candy here. We have a old school compass, and it does work. It's, in today's day and age with all the Wi-Fi and data flying around in the air, it definitely has a hard time keeping up. But once you get out in a remote area, it's actually very accurate. Added a tack here on the column. It works great. And I also have this rack of gauges here that I added. So I've got to put my wires back up after doing the engine swap. Anyway, I added this not long after I had the truck, just because the gauges that Ford gives you back in the day were more of a general suggestion. The fuel gauge does still work though, and it works pretty well. As you can see, the carburetor has no hesitation starting. This truck is barely warm, and it starts like that when it's cold too. You can hear the uneasy idle because it's a little cold and I don't have a choke on it. This is my custom overflow reservoir that I made. That's the new fuse panel that I've added, so I can add the electric fan that I added to it. I built this thing to go to work, and in the case of an emergency, I want something that's not going to be taken out by an EMP, that somebody can't remotely shut off with a remote because the CIA or the FBI or whatever powers that be have decided I can't drive anymore. If I decide I want to go somewhere, I'm going there because I have an 82 F100 that no one can tell no. I guess the point is, trucks are just yet another example of how the original American ideals are being ripped away from us shred by shred by shred. They used to be simple machines. It was the whole point. In fact, our government still special orders modern trucks without all the crap they're making us put on them, if that tells you anything. But what people want is simple. What people want is just works. They want something that they can build a fond memory with because it's not always breaking and it's not such a financial burden on them month to month. A lot of people aren't even able to enjoy their cars because they can't even afford to keep them. It's such a financial burden to even own them. Simple is better. That doesn't mean older is better, but older was simpler. So what are we doing? What happened to trucks? One of the main reasons a lot of this comes to mind, especially the topics in both videos, is recently we had something happen called in the past couple of years, called the Right to Repair Act. And what I have seen from multiple creators on YouTube, like I believe it's Edison Motors, talked about it. Companies used the Right to Repair Act is being used as an excuse to make policies that make it actually harder for us to get repairs. Their Right to Repair Act includes things like Hyundai putting brake pad changes behind a software paywall that is, I want to say, don't quote me, but it's like $2,000, I think, to get the software, and then $60 a month to keep the subscription, I think. I know it's subscription based. You can look it up and verify the numbers yourself if you care. You have to the subscriptions again. We had to subscribe for brake pads? Really? No. That's not going to last. That's not going to stick. People aren't going to buy that crap. The only kind of shops that are going to support that are dealerships. Any third-party shop, repair shop, body shop, they're not doing that. They're going to, no, we can't help you. So those cars are going to get bricked in a matter of just a few years, 2-3 years. As soon as it's wrecked, it's done. Throw it away, get a new one. I think another point worth making about older trucks and cars both is, what does the end of life look like? Hello. What does the end of life look like for a vehicle? Like, say it gets wrecked so bad that it's really not worth justifying repairing it. Say it gets rusted out so bad that it's not worth repairing it. You strip the parts that are good, whatever. Modern cars are made from so many composite materials, and like the computers themselves are a composite of plastics and semiconductors and gold and silver and copper and all kind of chemicals. And the prospects of recovering those once they're made into that is slim to none. The same goes for the interior plastics, the other kinds of things that are being used to make the bumpers, the insides of the car, etc., etc., etc. It's becoming to the point where so much of the car is unrecoverable that it is more destined for the landfill than it is actually being recycled. Almost everything on the Datsun and almost everything on the Ford that I have is made out of simple materials. There are a few plastic composites for the dash, the vinyl on the seats. Those are, okay, a few things. Carpet, that hasn't changed much. That's been pretty standard for 20 or 30 years. But every piece of copper in that vehicle is 100% recoverable. Every piece of steel in that vehicle, it's all steel. You can take the whole thing, roll it into the crusher, and it's steel. It's all steel. It's all good scrap that can be turned into a tin can, a new car, a Chinese bullshit, whatever you want to make. Modern cars are too complicated, not just because they're hard to work on, but because there's not a clear path for what we can do with it afterwards. I'm not even opposed to EVs. EVs can be very simple. I work with electronics all the time. I'm not anti-electronics. Electric cars can be very reliable and they can be very simple. But no manufacturer, besides potentially maybe Slate, well, time will tell, has yet to provide us with a economical, safe, reliable option for electric cars. Which, I'm not singling out electric cars here. I'm just saying that electric cars, hybrids, ICE cars, internal combustion engine, all of them currently are suffering from the same set of problems. Too hard to work on, not made to last, and no clear path for recycling. That is a bad combo. If you take an old truck and drag it out of the weeds, if the frame is not completely gone, you can rebuild it. I've seen people rebuild trucks that I would never, ever dream of rebuilding. But they're everywhere. Ford F-150s, Ford F-100s, they were the number one selling truck in America for years. And Chevys are the same way. You can get plenty of Chevys. Old Toyotas, whatever your flavor is, dude, they're out there. And it's easy to build them. Dare I say it, even though it's hard to find quality parts, it's easier now more than ever. Easier now more than ever to build things yourself. To build a car yourself in your driveway. It's never been more affordable, relatively speaking. It's never been easier. We have YouTube, guys. You're watching me on YouTube. You can figure out anything you want to know here. I think the way to achieve the American dream, or the only way to anymore, is to pave your own road. To do it yourself and build it yourself. I don't want my videos to just be about how old cars are better, new cars suck. It needs to be more nuanced than that. We need to make new cars that we can love again. That's what these videos are about. We need new trucks and new cars that we can be proud to own and that are easy and fun to work on. We want to keep them and love them a long time and share them with our kids, just like has been done for 100 or more years already. Right to repair is a scam. That was a lie they told us to be able to make it worse. Great. Thanks. If they had really cared about right to repair, they would be more concerned about making sure that there are local manufacturers and distributors for parts that Americans use, whether that is parts for this kind of stuff, parts for cars and trucks. We should be able to fix this stuff. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to fix this. There's no reason that I should have to feel like makes more financial sense for me to just go buy another one. And it's sad that in a lot of cases it does make more financial sense. Stuff is so cheap now. Yet we're struggling because everything's cheap. I just wanted to introduce you guys to my truck and expand my ideas on the auto industry and talk some more about that. I feel like it's going to be important for us to have ongoing conversations about the state of it if we want it to change. It may not seem like it, but as consumers, we do have power. We do have control. We can decide what we buy, and we can take initiative, and we can take personal liberty and decide that we don't want to participate in scams, basically. That's the way I see it. The major automotive corporations and all are scamming us. They're just inflating the cars to make them more expensive by giving features that we don't need. My truck has all the creature comforts I need, and I can continue to add more. There's no shortage of things I can do, and there's no limit on what I'm allowed to add to it. Sure, you can get creative, and a lot of people do with these new vehicles, and more power to you. I mean, if that's what you like doing, go for it. But for me, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more rewarding. And I just wish we had modern options that were equivalent and were simple. So thanks for watching. I appreciate the discussion in the comments. And yeah, please leave a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you guys. And thanks for watching.